But considering that, as she suspects and as she insists, right? But I suspect that the psychological, the shards and the pieces of my soul that I just disconnected, because I recall, man, even as back in my 20s and early 30s, I would always want this burden to be taken from me. The burden of the constant hammering male sex drive that just doesn't leave you alone ever, right? And then on top of that, the psychological need that men have for women. It's a vulnerability, a vulnerability that allows so many women to exploit so many men and use them and then harvest them once they get what they want. Then the divorce, and then then she's raising single kids herself, and then kids turn out to be a disaster, and the man's life is basically wasted. If that was his purpose, right, to have a good family. So I suspect I have pieces of my soul which I have taken out, right? And the part of me that needed love so bad, that desolate feeling of despair where your needs are not met, that it's pretty much impossible, for a young man to get those needs met, mainly because of the 80-20 rule, where women are just marrying or dating or aiming for the top 20 or 30% of guys. And I was much more average. I was kind of a little bit portly, and fairly buff as a mechanic, and just not that special, right? And the result was I could only get like land whales and women who just were not that attractive. And that is what, and I went and I kept dating, all the way up to like 2009. And then every single time I would date, it would just be not worth the trouble. I mean, even sex was not worth the trouble, right? I would have to drive the entire process. I would have to start the relationship, pay for the relationship, pay for the dates, and sex was supposed to be my reward, when she clearly enjoyed it like 10 times more than I did. And then eventually, after my most recent girlfriend and I split up, I had this moment of clarity. I was like, ever since I went MGTOW back in 1997, all the way to 2009, every single girlfriend or date that I had was not worth the trouble, right? And when it would end, I was always happy and relieved, and I would feel at peace, and I would feel as if I had escaped. So basically, and now the cycle, and now I think, and all that time, I had that driving force just hammering on me, trying to get me to reproduce, right? The constant scourge whipping of the freaking male sex drive on our egos and our intention, and if a beautiful woman comes in and then she has boobs hanging out of her entire shirt and glowing freaking blinking lights on her nipples that are just designed little hydraulics to jump up and down, and little flags are flying around. And then if you're talking to her, and then as soon as you're thinking about something else, your hindbrain, starts checking her fertility, and it glances at her boobs, right? It's a part of you that is not really voluntary. It's a part of you in a way that is sort of disconnected. And it's a part of you that can come in, right? And make you do things when you are distracted or you don't have the proper mental defenses set up, right? And then it'll put you on autopilot, and then suddenly you find yourself in divorce court about 8 years later. So, or, you know, it might work out. Some marriages work out. You know, maybe half of marriages survive, and maybe about half of the surviving marriages are happy. So I would say marriage has about a 25% success rate, whereas 75% is absolutely a fail. And it's really hard to argue that. But as I was saying, you know, she was saying, and I think she's right, because sometimes out of nowhere, right, you can run into a situation where you find yourself doing some things that are weird and that you didn't really hardly even intend to do. And what I suspect is that Carl Jung stuff, right, is when that happens, what's actually happening is that you're one of those little sharding little pieces of your mind that is usually invisible to your main perspective, your main ego, your main personality. And then it can like show up, and then when something really hits it, you know, like boobs or you know, or you know, any number of things. You could, like, some people have gambling addictions, other people have like gaming addictions, you know, like, but that's not really it. It's a vulnerability to addiction, right? From something that you're usually disconnected from. So you're walking along happy as can be, you know, you're living your nice MGTOW lifestyle, and then you know, a woman starts getting really nice to you, and then that part of you which is disconnected, it just like a Goa'uld off of that Stargate TV show, and then it can take over, and then suddenly your body and your mind are being operated by something that has a completely different set of values than you believe or your main personality has, right? And if that gets pretty severe, it can cause some real problems. There are, like, you know, things in history where people have had actual multiple personalities, and some people actually have that, and then one moment, and they're all over the place, right? One part of them is doing something, and then some other stimulus occurs, and then suddenly they're doing something entirely different. And what will fix that, if what my diesel mechanic knowledge of this, right, what will supposedly fix this is what they call integration, right? It's where you try to identify with and try to bring those other pieces of yourself that you've thrown away, just like women have thrown men out, you know, largely in the United States. And it's like, if you can bring all of those pieces of yourself together and become whole again, then you can act as a complete person, and then suddenly you can live a good life without having a piece of yourself suddenly jump into the driver's seat and take over and make you do all kinds of crazy, stupid shit. So this is my theory, right? So and it's part of like what Carl Jung is talking about, and what the psychologist lady is talking about. So where does that leave me? Clearly, the MGTOW lifestyle is full of peace, freedom, and prosperity, right? Oh man, hold on. Fuck. Oh, okay. I thought the film stopped. I thought the camera stopped. Anyway, I'm clearly not going to give up the MGTOW lifestyle, honestly. Once I paid off my house, I was living on 30% of my income. And every single woman I've ever dated has not been worth the trouble. And I've always been relieved when it was over, right? So where does that leave me? If I can integrate some of that anger and let go of some of that anger, because I think I might be carrying too much, because I can see it in myself, I can feel it in my chest, right? So when I feel that, that's just the things that are there all the time, causing me to feel the damage that's being done, even though I'm not aware of it. And thought can affect your physical body. It's absolutely true. And, it's arguable by people who don't know what the heck they're talking about. But it is, but I accept it as, it's like another red pill. But I really strongly suspect that is what's happening. So what I'm going to have to do, if I want to live, and I do, I have too many Bitcoins to die, right? So I'm not going. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to work on I'm going to have to reconnect with all that anger and try to find a place to send it and find a way to let it go. A friend of mine used to be, he was an aura seeing kind of guy like me, and he was telling me I needed a discharge point, right? A place where when you have really negative thoughts and negative forces in your mind, and you can take those and then focus on a location somewhere and just let it flow out of you into that area, right? And I would not want to put it anywhere where it would cause harm, but yet I would have to let that go, so the anger stops poisoning me, and then I'll have a better shot at knocking this cancer out. But I think it really looks like I'm already doing it, because the stools, as I was saying, they're not ribbony anymore. They are straight. They are normal looking, although small, because I eat small meals. But basically, I'm convinced that it's working, because the coffee enemas were really hard and difficult before. And I'd have to move around and do calisthenics to get it to go past the blockage, right? But now, I don't seem to have to do that. And I don't have to, when you're evacuating it all, pardon the gory details, when you're evacuating it, I don't have to stand up as much. I have to do it 2 or 3 times, walk around a little bit, but that might be normal for everyone. But then I can do the coffee enema a lot faster than I used to. So put it in and then set the timer, because you have to put it in for 15 minutes, and then you let it go. So basically, and it's a much smoother operation now. So let's see. That was why I had such a shitty day yesterday, because, man, things kind of piled up. First I had that interview with the psychologist who was saying, "Let go of your anger. You have no reason to be angry. you should accept. You should reconnect with your heart." And then blah blah blah, And I was like, "But what about the divorce rate? What about false accusations? Have you ever been hauled off to jail bleeding when your significant other called the police and said that you hadn't beat him up or something? No. Have you ever been jailed for 3 months? Have you ever been falsely accused and obliterated in divorce court and have everything taken from you that you've worked decades for? I haven't, but I've seen it happen. And that anger that of such injustice. Men live under such injustice in the United States, but I'm going to have to let go of the anger and reconnect with some of those pieces of my soul that I thought I was burning on the forge. But what I was doing, I think, is I was just disconnecting from them and shoving those poor, self-aware pieces of myself out into the dark void of despair, where they had to live and survive in the cold instead of being part of me and full and enjoying the experiences of life. And it's like taking a piece of yourself that is, call it like a friend, or, you know, what would you do that to a friend of yours, you know? And you got to start treating yourself as though you are somebody you really want to help, right? And care for. So I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to, and I've done a lot of this already, because man, you should have seen me 10 years ago. I'm a lot better now. But some of that anger, probably 30, maybe 20% of it is still floating around. So I'm going to have to work on that. Okay, MGTOWs, that's about all I got for you. Massive long video. And that's about all I got. And I'm going to say, man, consider. Maybe the time has come to start letting go of some of the anger, but just keep it in your mind and keep aware of the danger, you know. But without the anger to come to your rescue, and the resentment and the hostility, right, that I normally feel for most women, right? If the if I can get rid of that, or if I can let it loose, you know, and stop making it part of. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. Maybe I need psychological help. So I've already paid for it, you know, so I'm going to see what I can do about that. Scary thing about it is she's also an acupuncturist. I don't know if I want to go there. I will. I'll keep you posted. I've got about 2 more weeks here, almost two more weeks, I think, and I'll let you know if I let her stick needles into me, because man, it does not sound very pleasant. Okay, MGTOWs, that's where I am right now. And don't get married. Man, beautiful day out there. But it's winding down. Time to start getting ready to crash. Later, MGTOWs.